thank you for joining us. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Nick Farisi. I'm currently the captain of the Spring Valley Area Command, and this is our September 1st Tuesday, so thank you for joining us. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been on the agency going on close to 20 years now, and I'm really passionate about what I do. This month's topic, we're going to talk about crime and specifically crime prevention. And I think it's important to you all to understand that, me and my brothers and sisters of the department here, we live in this community. I live in this community. I'm raising my family in this community. And just like you, I want to feel safe. I want to be able to go for a walk at night with my dogs, be able to take my children to the park and play, and be able to grocery shop and fill up my tank of gas and feel safe and not have to worry about crime. So it's for these reasons that it drives all the men and women of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to make this the safest city in America. So we've talked in previous sessions about the current climate of law enforcement. We've talked about the protests. We've talked about transparency and accountability. And this month, I want to move on to talk about crime. I think we've all seen what's going on nationally, from New York to LA, to Portland, and currently what happened in Wisconsin. And crime is on the rise throughout the whole country. We've seen a spike in violence. We've seen violent protests. We've seen far too many murders and people getting shot. And even recently around the country, we've seen an uptick in people wanting to harm law enforcement officers and shoot and kill law enforcement officers. The good news is that that's not happening here in Las Vegas. And that's not happening for many reasons, but one of the biggest reasons why it's not happening is because of the dedication of your law enforcement professionals and the collaboration and partnership that we have with you, our community. Currently, we are down 3.4% in murders. We are down almost 15% in robberies, and our property crimes, we're seeing a 20% reduction. Overall violent crime, we're down 1.5% as a valley here in Las Vegas. When you compare that to what's happening in Chicago and New York and some other areas, that's a testament to not only the dedication of the men and women committed to law enforcement here in Southern Nevada, but also to the community, because we can't do it alone. We need your help. We do have crime here, though. And what the crime that we're currently seeing, it's being driven by a myriad of things, but it's ultimately related to what we suspect is the COVID-19 pandemic that we're all suffering and living through. We've seen an increase in out-of-state people coming to our city, whether it be to stay in hotels, stay with friends and family, or stay in vacation rentals such as Airbnb. For whatever reason, while they're coming here and they're partying, they're not doing it responsibly, and they're getting into fights and they're causing violence and wreaking havoc. But while we're aware of this problem, we're constantly working to eradicate it. And one of those issues, like I mentioned, was violence associated with vacation rentals such as VRBO and Airbnb. Your police department has worked hard with our local elected officials, both at the city and at the county, to put processes into place to prevent these party houses from plaguing our community. But we need your help to continue to report them to us. We're working very hard to track down the owners of these properties and put them on notice that they're operating illegal parties, and that will not be tolerated, with a focus of keeping our city safe for all of us to enjoy. But I want to talk to you about what we can do to prevent crime. We're very good at reacting to crime once it happens and solving it, but prevention is the key to our success. And there's a lot of technology that your department uses to keep our community safe. Some of that technology is our ShotSpotter innovation. If you're not familiar with ShotSpotter, this is a technology that we employed a couple of years ago in certain high crime areas to test it out, where it would detect gunshots, usually by the second gunshot, and be able to direct officers within 2 to 3 feet of where those gunshots were heard. The program proved so successful that through a partnership with a grant and Commissioner Kirkpatrick, we were able to expand the ShotSpotter technology to various parts of our community and valley. I'm fortunate enough in the Spring Valley Area Command to have ShotSpotter technology, and I can tell you firsthand that this technology is allowing us to identify people that are illegally shooting firearms and locate them and get them into custody and get those guns off the street. before those illegal shots turn into people being shot or people being killed. We also have our Fusion Center. Our Fusion Center is equipped with cameras that are spread throughout the entire valley, up and down our strip corridor and even downtown, and then into different pockets of communities throughout the valley. These cameras are monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays, that allow officers to observe and detect and report suspicious activity and crimes to officers that are working those areas of town. It's a collaboration and a partnership between the cops on the street and the officers working in our Fusion Center, and those cameras are allowing us to prevent crime before it happens or quickly apprehend a suspect if they choose to commit a crime. We also have 10 area commands, and each one of those area commands has a community-oriented policing unit, and that unit is committed to working with their community members to make those communities as safe as possible. There's various programs that they help steer, from dealing with at-risk youth and violent offenders to partnering with kids in schools and neighborhoods so that they have a positive mentor and see law enforcement in a positive light. And it's all built around building long-lasting relationships around trust and transparency. We also work with organizations such as Hope for Prisoners. You might have recently seen on the news that Hope for Prisoners received national recognition, and the founder and CEO of that, John Ponder, was recently pardoned by President Trump as part of his hard work and dedication to focusing on preventing recidivism. Hope for Prisoners is a great program that it takes people that have committed crimes, and once they're released from jail or prison, providing tools and resources and training and mentorship so that they can become and maintain productive members of society and not return to a life of crime. We have proven that the community policing model works. As Sheriff Lombardo says, cops matter, and having cops on the street working with the community matters. But we cannot police our valley without you. There are plenty of ways for you to get involved and help work with your police department to make Las Vegas the safest community in America. One of the ways is to join a neighborhood watch. You could reach out to your local area command and their COP team and their crime prevention specialists, and we'll help you organize a neighborhood watch program for your specific community where you can get out and know your neighbors. Another thing that you could do to partner with your police department is to, if you have a home security system, you can register it with us on Vegas SafeCam. What that does is allows us to identify houses that have cameras. It doesn't give us access to your cameras. We cannot control your cameras or manipulate them, but it just identifies houses in specific neighborhoods that have security systems. What that allows us to do is, if we have to investigate a crime in an area, we will go to this system and we will look to see who has cameras and then work with you to try to look at your video system to see if you have surveillance of what we're looking for the crime that we are investigating. There's also the see something, say something. Get involved. If something doesn't look right and something doesn't look suspicious in your neighborhood, please call 311 or 911 depending on the level of emergency, and let us determine what is right and what is wrong. I would rather you err on the side of caution and report something to us and it be nothing than you think that you're being a burden and bothering us, and then a crime happens and one of your neighbors or friends becomes the victim. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to talk to you about National Preparedness Month. September is National Preparedness Month, and we've all been living through this health pandemic that we've referred to as COVID-19, but we also can't lose sight that we also live in a flood area and are susceptible to other types of natural disasters and man-made disasters. And there are some things that you should do to prepare for these. And the first thing is to make a plan. You don't want to first talk about what you would do in an emergency when that emergency is occurring. So have a plan. Communicate with your family members and friends of who will do what and what you will do in a certain situation, such as an earthquake, or if we have a fire, or if we have a major flash flood. The next thing you want to do is build your kit. What will that kit look like? What supplies will you need in that kit? Do you have enough supplies to last for 3 to 4 days? Are you addressing all the needs that you need specific to your family, whether it be with small children, people with medical emergencies and medical needs, and don't forget about your pets as well. The next thing you want to do is prepare. The time to find out that you live in a flood zone and that you don't have flood insurance isn't when you're the victim of a flood. Make sure that you're prepared and that you have the right documents and the right protections in place so that should you fall victim of a natural disaster, you are prepared to live through it and mitigate it. And then lastly, if you have children, talk to your kids so that they're prepared. Do they know what's expected of them? Do they know what to do if they get separated from you? Having a conversation with your kids not only educates them and calms them during unrest when a natural emergency happens, but it also ensures that they understand their role and responsibility and what is expected of you as their guardian. For future tips on this, you could also go to ready.gov/September. That's www.ready.gov/September for more tips for National Preparedness Month. With that being said, I'll now open it up for some questions.
So we have someone who's asking why helicopters fly so low in their neighborhood. Can you explain the purpose?
So the question is, why sometimes are the police helicopters flying so low in neighborhoods? And what I could tell you is that that helicopter is a police officer's best friend down on the ground. That helicopter is providing safety and overwatch to the officers, but also to the residents of that community while we're working an emergency. It could be that we have a perimeter set up for somebody that's running from us, or it could be we're arriving on a house that might have an unknown emergency, and that helicopter is our eyes and the ears in the sky that's guiding us in so that we can quickly bring that emergency to a safe resolution. I know sometimes it could be loud while it's flying low, but we do this as quickly as possible, and then once that emergency is over, that helicopter goes back to regular operations.
Okay. We have another question about why are school zone lights still on when it's distance learning and no kids are in school?
So that's a very good question, and actually there is a reason for that. So while our kids currently are doing distance learning at home, those school lights are still on for two reasons. One, those schools are still providing meals to at-risk and at-need children, and the pickup areas are in the morning for the families to come and pick up meals for those kids. And secondly, it is to get everybody in the mindset for safe driving, because we still have school buses picking up certain kids and shuttling them to community centers so that they can have their distance learning. And it's in preparation for when we go back to a model, whether it be a full-time in school model or the anticipated hybrid model where kids are in school in person 2 days a week and home learning 2 to 3 days a week.
We actually have a election-related question. Wondering if election polling places are going to be safe. There are rumors of protesters that are going to come to the polls. Are we preparing to make sure that voters are going to be safe?
So the question is in regards to the upcoming elections in November and polling places and their overall safety. And I can assure you, as your police department, we are committed to providing safety at every one of these polling places to give every citizen their constitutional right to exercise their right to vote without being impeded by any protesters or anybody else. We've done this for years past on election days where we always provide a security footprint at various polling stations, and that will be no different this year.
Okay, so we do have somebody who's asking how our officer, Shay Michelonis, is doing.
Yeah, so first off, the question is asking for an update on Shay, and for those that aren't aware, Shay was one of our officers that was working a protest and was randomly shot in the head by a suspect that is in custody. Shay is recovering out of state right now, and has a long road to recovery, but the last update that we got, he's making progress, and that's all that we could hope and pray for. And I just ask everybody to continue to pray for Shay and for his speedy recovery and well-being. At this point, I appreciate you taking the time to spend a little bit of your day with us here in virtual First Tuesday. I apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning, but we're in uncharted waters here, and we're learning just like you are. But Sheriff Lombardo and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department thinks it's important that we find ways to stay engaged with our community even while we're challenged with the current health pandemic. But in closing, I want to remind you and review that your police department is actively taking proactive measures using the most recent innovation and technology to prevent crimes from happening, and that it's important that you have a plan in place should a natural disaster happen and that you're prepared to act. We look forward to working with you on future community outreach, and we will see you next month for our next virtual First Tuesday. Thank you.